Birds are everywhere around us, in cities, in forests, near the ocean, even in the coldest and hottest places on Earth. They come in all shapes and sizes. Some are tiny like a coin, and some are big enough to carry small animals away. But who are they really? Birds are some of the most amazing creatures on our planet. They can fly, swim, sing, dance, and travel thousands of miles without getting lost. Some live in huge groups, and others prefer to be alone. Every bird has a story, and today we'll discover 100 of them. Millions of years ago, birds came from dinosaurs. That's right, the same giant reptiles that once ruled the earth still live among us, just in a different form. Their wings, feathers, and light bones help them do something most animals can only dream of: fly. When we look at birds, we are actually looking at living dinosaurs that learned how to survive in the sky. Birds are clever too. Crows can solve puzzles, parrots can talk, owls can see in the dark, and eagles can spot a rabbit from far away. Each bird has special powers that help it live in its home. Whether that home is a mountain, jungle, or busy city, some birds travel more than 40,000 kilometers every year, flying from one end of the world to the other. Others never leave their home at all. They know when it will rain, when food is near, and even how to find their nest after months away. They use stars, sunlight, and the Earth's magnetic field to find their way. Birds are also great builders. Some make small nests hidden in trees, while others create huge ones that can hold many chicks. The weaver bird ties grass together like a little artist, and the penguin, even in freezing cold, takes care of its egg with so much love. They are full of color and sound, from the bright red of a cardinal to the deep blue of a kingfisher. Their feathers look like tiny rainbows. Some sing beautiful songs to attract mates or mark their territory. Others use funny calls and dances to show off. But birds aren't just beautiful. They are very important for the earth. They spread seeds, eat insects, and help forests grow. Without them, nature wouldn't work the same way. Every time you see a bird flying or singing, it's playing a part in keeping our planet alive. Birds remind us that freedom still exists, high above our heads. They show courage, intelligence, and beauty every single day. And the more we learn about them, the more we realize how special they truly are. So now, let's begin a journey through the sky. Here are 100 amazing facts about birds that will open your eyes to their secret world. Birds are among the most remarkable creatures on our planet, soaring through skies, diving into oceans, and inhabiting every corner of Earth, from the frozen Antarctic to scorching deserts. These feathered wonders have captivated human imagination for millennia, and the incredible diversity and abilities they possess will leave you amazed and inspired. Approximately 10,000 different species of birds live on Earth right now. That's right, 10,000 unique types of birds, each with their own behaviors, colors, songs, and survival strategies. From the tiniest hummingbird that weighs less than a penny to the massive ostrich that stands taller than most humans, the variety in the bird world is absolutely spectacular. This incredible diversity means that birds have adapted to virtually every habitat imaginable, and they've developed some of the most extraordinary abilities in the animal kingdom. One of the most famous aspects of birds is their ability to fly. But here's something fascinating that many people don't realize. Not all birds can fly, and some birds that can fly choose not to very often. The ostrich is the largest living bird species, and it cannot fly at all. Instead, these remarkable creatures have evolved to be incredibly fast runners, capable of sprinting at speeds up to 43 miles per hour. Imagine a bird running faster than most cars drive through residential neighborhoods. The ostrich's powerful legs aren't just for running either. They can deliver kicks strong enough to kill a lion. These birds prove that being grounded doesn't mean being defenseless. At the other end of the size spectrum, hummingbirds are absolute marvels of nature. The bee hummingbird, found in Cuba, holds the title of the world's smallest bird. This tiny creature measures just over 2 inches long and weighs less than a dime. Despite their minuscule size, hummingbirds are powerhouses of energy and activity. Their hearts beat an astonishing 1,200 times per minute during flight, which is faster than you can even comprehend. That's 20 beats per second. To fuel this incredible metabolism, hummingbirds must consume half their body weight in sugar every single day, visiting hundreds of flowers to gather enough nectar to survive. The flight capabilities of hummingbirds deserve special attention because they're truly unique in the bird world. Hummingbirds are the only birds that can fly backwards, and they can also hover in place like tiny helicopters. This remarkable ability comes from their wing structure and the way they move their wings. Unlike most birds that flap their wings up and down, hummingbirds rotate their wings in a figure-8 pattern, which allows them to generate lift on both the forward and backward strokes. Their wings beat between 50 and 80 times per second during normal flight, creating that characteristic humming sound that gives them their name. When you see a hummingbird seeming to float in midair as it drinks from a flower, you're witnessing one of nature's most sophisticated flying machines in action. Bird vision is remarkably different from human vision and gives them capabilities we can barely imagine. Many birds can see ultraviolet light, which is completely invisible to human eyes. This means that when birds look at the world, they see colors and patterns that we cannot even perceive. Imagine looking at a white flower that appears plain to you, but to a bird, that same flower might have brilliant ultraviolet patterns guiding them to the nectar. This ultraviolet vision helps birds in many ways. They can see ultraviolet reflections on fruits to determine ripeness, spot the ultraviolet markings on other birds that help them choose mates, and even follow urine trails left by small mammals when hunting. The eyesight of birds of prey takes visual capabilities to to an entirely different level. Eagles and hawks have vision that is 4 to 8 times sharper than human vision. An eagle soaring 2 miles high in the sky can spot a rabbit moving on the ground below. To put this in perspective, that would be like you standing at one end of a football stadium and being able to read the fine print on a newspaper at the other end. This incredible visual acuity comes from having more light-detecting cells packed into their retinas and having 2 focal points in each eye compared to our single focal point. This allows them to look forward and to the side simultaneously while maintaining sharp focus. Feathers make birds truly unique among all animals. These structures are made of keratin, the same protein that makes up your hair and fingernails, but they're structured in an incredibly complex way that makes them perfect for flight, insulation, and display. A single feather is an engineering marvel, consisting of a central shaft with hundreds of barbs branching off, and each barb has hundreds of smaller barbules branching off it. These barbules have tiny hooks that zip together like Velcro, creating a smooth, strong surface that air can't easily pass through. This intricate structure makes feathers light, yet strong, flexible, yet sturdy, and perfect for the demands of flight. Birds spend a considerable amount of time maintaining their feathers through preening, and this behavior is absolutely essential for their survival. When a bird preens, it's not just being vain or passing time. It's performing critical maintenance on its flight equipment. Birds have a special gland near the base of their tail called the preen gland or uropygial gland, which produces an oily substance. The bird uses its beak to spread this oil over its feathers, which waterproofs them, keeps them flexible, and helps maintain their structure. Some birds preen for several hours each day, carefully working through every feather to ensure they're in perfect condition. Without proper preening, feathers become ragged and damaged, making flight difficult or impossible. Variety of feather colors in the bird world is breathtaking, and the way these colors are created is fascinating. Some feather colors come from pigments, chemical substances that absorb certain wavelengths of light and reflect others. The reds, yellows, and oranges you see on many birds come from pigments called carotenoids, which birds obtain from their diet. This is why flamingos are pink. They eat small crustaceans that contain carotenoid pigments, and these pigments get deposited in their feathers. But here's something amazing. Many blue and green colors in bird feathers aren't created by pigments at all. Instead, they're structural colors created by the microscopic structure of the feather itself, which scatters light in specific ways to create brilliant blues and greens. This is why if you find a blue jay feather and crush it, the blue color disappears. It was never really there in the first place, just an optical illusion created by the feather structure. Birds' songs and calls are far more complex and meaningful than many people realize. Birds use vocalizations to communicate all sorts of information, warning about predators, defending territories, attracting mates, and maintaining contact with family members. The variety of sounds birds can produce is incredible, from the simple chirps of a sparrow to the complex melodies of a nightingale. Songbirds, which make up about half of all bird species, learn their songs from their parents and other adults, much like human children learn language. Young songbirds go through a babbling phase, practicing and perfecting their songs before they can sing them properly. Some birds even have regional dialects, meaning that the same species will sing slightly differently in different parts of their range. The syrinx, which is the bird equivalent of a voice box, is another unique feature that allows birds to create their remarkable sounds. Unlike the human larynx, which sits at the top of the windpipe, the syrinx is located where the windpipe splits into the two bronchi, leading to the lungs. This position allows some birds to produce two different sounds simultaneously, singing a duet with themselves. Some species, like the wood thrush, can sing notes that sound like two birds singing together, but it's actually just one bird using both sides of its syrinx independently. This ability to create complex, multi-layered songs helps make bird vocalizations some of the most beautiful and intricate sounds in nature. Migration is one of the most spectacular phenomena in the bird world, with billions of birds traveling thousands of miles between their breeding and wintering grounds each year. The distances some birds travel are almost unbelievable. The Arctic tern holds the record for the longest migration of any animal on Earth, flying from the Arctic to the Antarctic and back again each year, covering a distance of about 44,000 miles. Over its lifetime, an Arctic tern might fly a distance equivalent to 3 trips to the moon and back. These birds essentially experience 2 summers each year, enjoying the endless daylight of polar regions during the breeding season in the Arctic, then flying to the other end of the world to enjoy the Antarctic summer. How birds navigate during these epic journeys is one of the great mysteries that scientists are still working to fully understand. Birds use multiple navigation systems working together, including the position of the sun and stars, landmarks they recognize, and even the Earth's magnetic field. Yes, birds can detect magnetic fields. They have special molecules in their eyes called cryptochromes that are sensitive to magnetic fields, essentially giving them a built-in compass. Some birds also have magnetic particles in their beaks that might help with navigation. Young birds on their first migration often travel without their parents, following instinctive directions programmed into their genes, which is absolutely remarkable when you think about a young bird finding its way to a specific location thousands of miles away without a map or guide. Bird brains might be small, but they're incredibly sophisticated and capable of surprising intelligence. Crows and ravens, members of the corvid family, are among the smartest animals on the planet, rivaling great apes in some cognitive tests. These birds can use tools, solve complex problems, remember individual human faces for years, and even hold grudges against people who have wronged them. In one famous study, crows learned to drop nuts onto roads so that cars would crack them open, and they would wait at crosswalks for the traffic light to change before retrieving their food. Some crows have been observed making hooks out of wire to retrieve food from containers, showing an understanding of cause and effect that few animals possess. Parrots represent another group of birds with exceptional intelligence, and their ability to mimic human speech is well known. But parrots don't just mindlessly repeat sounds. They can actually understand the meaning of words and use them appropriately. The famous African gray parrot named Alex could identify objects, colors, and shapes, understand the concept of numbers up to 6, and even express emotions and desires using human language. When Alex died, his last words to his handler were, "You be good. I love you." This emotional intelligence, combined with linguistic ability, shows that birds can form deep bonds and possess consciousness in ways we're only beginning to understand. The diversity in bird beaks is another testament to their incredible evolutionary adaptation. Bird beaks are essentially tools that have evolved to match specific food sources and lifestyles. The massive, powerful beak of a macaw can crack open the hardest nuts and seeds with ease, generating crushing forces of over 300 pounds per square inch. Meanwhile, the long, curved beak of a hummingbird is perfectly shaped to reach deep into tubular flowers to access nectar. Pelicans have pouches beneath their beaks that can hold up to 3 gallons of water and fish, acting like built-in fishing nets. Woodpecker beaks are strong, straight, and chisel-like, perfect for drilling into tree bark to find insects. Each beak shape tells a story about how that bird makes its living in the world. Woodpeckers deserve special attention because of their remarkable adaptations. These birds hammer their beaks against trees at speeds of up to 20 times per second, generating forces that would cause severe brain damage in humans. So how do woodpeckers avoid concussions? They have several amazing adaptations. Their skulls are thick and spongy, absorbing impact like a helmet. Their brains fit tightly in their skulls, with no room to rattle around. They have a special bone called the hyoid that wraps around their skull like a seatbelt, providing additional protection. And they have a nictitating membrane, a third eyelid that closes just before impact, protecting their eyes from flying wood chips and preventing their eyeballs from popping out from the force. Every aspect of a woodpecker's anatomy is designed for its unique lifestyle. The relationship between birds and their environments has created some of the most incredible survival strategies in nature. Penguins are perhaps the most recognizable flightless birds, and their adaptations to life in cold climates are absolutely fascinating. Emperor penguins, which breed in Antarctica during the brutal winter months, can survive temperatures as low as -60 degrees Fahrenheit and winds up to 100 miles per hour. These remarkable birds have developed several layers of defense against the cold. They have about 100 feathers per square inch, more than any other bird species, creating an incredibly dense insulation layer. Beneath their skin, they have a thick layer of blubber that provides additional insulation and energy reserves. Their circulatory system is specially adapted too. Blood vessels in their flippers and feet are arranged in a way that warm blood flowing out heats up cold blood flowing in, preventing heat loss and keeping their core temperature stable, even when standing on ice. Emperor penguins also display one of the most devoted parenting behaviors in the animal kingdom. After the female lays a single egg, she transfers it to the male and then embarks on a journey to the ocean to feed, which might be 60 miles away. The male penguin then incubates the egg on top of his feet, covered by a fold of skin called a brood pouch, for about 65 days without eating anything. During this time, males huddle together in groups of thousands, taking turns being on the outside of the huddle where it's coldest and rotating to the warm center. They can lose up to half their body weight during this fasting period. When the chicks hatch, the fathers feed them with a substance produced in their throat called crop milk until the mothers return with food from the ocean. This incredible sacrifice shows the lengths birds will go to ensure their offspring survive. The ability of birds to adapt to urban environments demonstrates their remarkable flexibility. Many species that once lived exclusively in forests or grasslands have successfully colonized cities and towns. Pigeons, which are now ubiquitous in cities worldwide, were originally cliff-dwelling birds, and they've adapted to urban life by treating buildings like artificial cliffs. Peregrine falcons, the fastest animals on Earth, which once nested exclusively on mountain cliffs, now nest on skyscrapers in major cities where they hunt the abundant pigeons. These urban falcons have learned to navigate the concrete canyons of cities with the same skill their ancestors used in natural landscapes. The shift to city life has even changed some bird behaviors. Studies show that birds in noisy urban areas sing at higher pitches and during different times of day to be heard over traffic noise. Speaking of peregrine falcons, their hunting technique deserves detailed attention because it's one of the most spectacular sights in nature. When hunting, a peregrine falcon climbs to great heights, then dives toward its prey in a hunting stoop. During this dive, peregrine falcons can reach speeds of over 240 miles per hour, making them the fastest animals on the planet. At these incredible speeds, the force of hitting prey would be fatal to the falcon itself, if not for special adaptations. Peregrine falcons have bony tubercles in their nostrils that redirect airflow and allow them to breathe at high speeds, similar to the air intakes on jet engines. Their nictitating membranes, those third eyelids, sweep across their eyes several times per second during the dive, keeping their vision clear while protecting their eyes from debris and the force of the wind. When they strike their prey, they hit with a clenched foot, stunning or killing the prey instantly with the impact. The nesting behaviors of birds reveal incredible diversity and ingenuity. While many birds build simple cup-shaped nests from twigs grass. Others create elaborate structures that rival human engineering. Sociable weaver birds in Africa build enormous communal nests that can house over 100 pairs of birds. These massive structures, which can weigh over a ton and persist for decades, look like giant haystacks in trees and provide protection from predators and temperature regulation. The nest has many separate chambers, each housing a single pair of birds, and the thick thatch roof provides insulation from the scorching African sun. These communal nests even attract other species who move in as tenants, including small falcons, parrots, and finches, creating diverse bird apartment buildings. Bowerbirds from Australia and New Guinea take nest decoration to an artistic extreme. Male bowerbirds don't just build nests, they construct elaborate structures called bowers specifically to attract females. These aren't nests where eggs will be laid, but rather bachelor pads designed to impress. The bower is often an avenue of sticks with a display area in front, which the male decorates with colorful objects. Some bowerbird species prefer blue objects and will collect anything blue they can find: flowers, berries, feathers, and even human trash like bottle caps and plastic pieces. The males arrange these objects by size and color, creating gradient patterns that some scientists believe use principles of forced perspective to make the display appear larger. Males spend hours each day maintaining their bowers, and females visit multiple bowers before choosing a mate, seemingly judging males on their artistic ability. The concept of bird intelligence extends to problem-solving abilities that continually surprise researchers. New Caledonian crows, found on a small group of islands in the Pacific, manufacture and use tools with sophistication that rivals chimpanzees. These crows craft multiple types of tools for different purposes. They make hooked tools from twigs by carefully selecting branches with natural hooks, or creating hooks themselves by bending and manipulating the wood. They also create pandanus tools by tearing strips from the leaves of pandanus plants, choosing the perfect width and shape for the task at hand. Even more remarkably, these crows show cultural transmission of tool-making techniques, with different populations having distinct tool designs that are passed down through generations. Young crows learn tool-making by watching their parents, and researchers have documented improvements in tool designs over time, suggesting these crows have a form of cumulative culture previously thought unique to humans. Vocal mimicry in birds goes far beyond parrots repeating words. The superb lyrebird of Australia is arguably the world's best mimic, capable of reproducing virtually any sound it hears. Male lyrebirds incorporate mimicked sounds into their elaborate courtship displays, and they've been recorded perfectly imitating chainsaws, car alarms, camera shutters, and even other birds. In one famous instance, a lyrebird raised in captivity near a construction site learned to mimic the sounds of workers, including power tools and hammers. When this bird was later released into the wild, it continued to incorporate these industrial sounds into its song, and other lyrebirds in the area began learning these sounds from him, creating a forest chorus of power tool sounds where no humans had been for years. This shows how cultural transmission works in birds and how quickly unusual sounds can spread through a population. The digestive systems of birds have evolved fascinating specializations to match their diets. Many birds, particularly seed eaters, have a muscular organ called a gizzard that grinds food. Since birds don't have teeth, they swallow small stones called gastroliths, which collect in the gizzard and act like millstones, grinding seeds and tough plant material into digestible paste. The muscular contractions of the gizzard are so powerful that they can crush even tough seeds and nuts. Some birds swallow surprisingly large stones. It's not uncommon to find gastroliths the size of marbles in chicken gizzards. Carnivorous birds that eat small prey whole have a different adaptation. They produce pellets. After digesting the nutritious parts of their prey, owls, hawks, and other birds regurgitate compact pellets containing indigestible material like bones, fur, and feathers. Scientists study these pellets to learn about bird diets and prey populations, making pellets valuable ecological research tools. Owls are among the most specialized hunting birds, and their adaptations for nocturnal predation are extraordinary. The vision of owls is incredibly light sensitive, allowing them to see in near darkness. Their large eyes have proportionally huge pupils that gather maximum light, and their retinas are packed with rod cells, the photoreceptors that function in low light. However, owl eyes are so large that they cannot move in their sockets. Owls must turn their entire heads to look around. To compensate, owls can rotate their heads 270 degrees, allowing them to look directly behind themselves without moving their bodies. This extreme neck rotation is possible because owls have 14 neck vertebrae, twice as many as humans, and they have special adaptations in their blood vessels that prevent the blood supply to the brain from being cut off during extreme head rotation. The silent flight of owls is another remarkable adaptation. Most birds make noise when they fly because air turbulence over their wings creates sound. Owls have evolved specialized feather structures that eliminate this noise. The leading edge of their primary flight feathers has a comb-like structure that breaks up air turbulence. The trailing edges of their feathers are fringed rather than smooth, which further reduces turbulence. The upper surface of their wings is covered in soft, velvety feathers that absorb sound. These three adaptations combine to make owl flight virtually silent, allowing them to swoop down on prey without any warning. This stealth is crucial for owls because many of their prey animals, particularly mice and voles, have excellent hearing. A silent approach means the difference between a successful hunt and going hungry. The hearing of owls is equally impressive and plays a major role in their hunting success. Many owl species have asymmetrical ear openings, with one ear positioned higher on their skull than the other. This asymmetry allows owls to pinpoint the exact location of sounds in three-dimensional space with incredible accuracy. When an owl hears a mouse rustling in leaves, it can determine not only the direction the sound is coming from, but also the exact distance and height. Owls can catch prey in complete darkness using hearing alone. Some species, like the barn owl, have facial discs, the heart-shaped feather patterns around their faces that function like satellite dishes, focusing sound waves toward their ears and amplifying faint sounds. The combination of silent flight and precise hearing makes owls supremely effective nighttime hunters. Social structures in bird species range from solitary to incredibly complex. Many seabirds, like albatrosses, form monogamous pair bonds that last for decades or even life. These birds spend most of their time alone at sea, wandering vast distances across the ocean, but they return to the same nesting site every year to breed with the same partner. Albatross pairs have elaborate greeting ceremonies when they reunite, including synchronized dances and vocalizations that strengthen their pair bond. The wandering albatross has the largest wingspan of any living bird, reaching up to 11.5 feet from tip to tip. These magnificent birds can fly for hours without flapping their wings, using a technique called dynamic soaring that exploits wind patterns over ocean waves to gain energy for flight. Albatrosses can cover 600 miles in a single day and have been tracked flying tens of thousands of miles during their ocean wanderings between breeding seasons. The hunting strategies employed by birds demonstrate remarkable intelligence and adaptability. Herons and egrets often use a technique called canopy feeding, where they spread their wings forward over the water to create shade. This serves two purposes. It reduces glare on the water surface, making it easier for the bird to see fish below, and it attracts fish seeking shelter in the shade, essentially baiting them into striking range. Some herons have taken this strategy further. The green heron is one of the few birds known to use tools actively and deliberately. These clever birds will drop small objects like twigs, insects, or bread crumbs onto the water surface as bait to attract fish. When a fish comes to investigate, the heron quickly strikes. Even more impressive, green herons in different locations use different baiting techniques, and young herons learn these methods by watching adults, showing cultural transmission of tool use. The cooperative hunting behaviors seen in some bird species rival those of mammalian predators like wolves. Harris's hawks, found in the southwestern United States and parts of Latin America, hunt in coordinated groups of 2 to 6 birds. They work together to flush prey from cover, with some birds acting as beaters to drive prey into the open, while others wait in ambush positions. When hunting rabbits hiding in cacti or brush, the hawks may take turns flushing the prey, exhausting it until it can be caught. They also engage in a strategy called leapfrogging, where hawks take turns leading a chase, always ensuring fresh birds are at the front pursuing the prey. After a successful hunt, Harris's hawks share their meal according to a social hierarchy, with dominant birds eating first, but ensuring all members of the group get food. This cooperative behavior is unusual among raptors, which are typically solitary hunters, and it allows Harris's hawks to take prey too large or too evasive for a single bird to capture. Communication between parent birds and their offspring starts before hatching in many species. Research has shown that bird embryos inside eggs can hear sounds from the outside world during the last several days before hatching. Parent birds sometimes make specific calls to their eggs, and the embryos respond with movements and even vocalizations from inside the shell. In some species, like the superb fairy wren, mother birds sing a distinctive song to their eggs. After hatching, the chicks incorporate this song into their begging calls. This creates a unique password that helps parents identify their own chicks and reject parasitic chicks from other species that might be placed in their nest. The fact that birds can teach their offspring songs while they're still in the egg shows just how sophisticated bird communication really is. Brood parasitism is a fascinating and sometimes disturbing survival strategy used by several bird species. The common cuckoo is the most famous brood parasite. Female cuckoos watch other birds building nests, and when the nest owners leave briefly, the cuckoo quickly flies in, removes one of the host's eggs, and lays her own egg in its place. The cuckoo egg often mimics the color and pattern of the host's eggs, making it difficult for the hosts to detect. Cuckoo eggs also hatch faster than most host species eggs. When the baby cuckoo hatches, it instinctively pushes the other eggs or chicks out of the nest, ensuring it receives all the food brought by the unsuspecting foster parents. The tiny warbler or robin parents will then work themselves to exhaustion feeding this enormous imposter chick, which often grows much larger than the foster parents themselves. This strategy allows cuckoos to reproduce without the energy investment of raising their own young, though it comes at a terrible cost to the host species. The phenomenon of anting, observed in many bird species, is a behavior that puzzled scientists for years. Birds engage in anting by either picking up ants and rubbing them through their feathers, or lying on ant hills and allowing ants to crawl through their plumage. This behavior looks uncomfortable and even distressing, but birds seem to seek it out deliberately. The leading theory is that anting helps birds control parasites. Ants produce formic acid and other defensive chemicals, and these substances may kill or repel feather mites and other parasites. Some birds have been observed anting with other items besides ants, including mothballs, cigarette butts, and even lime juice, all substances with strong chemical properties. This shows that birds can make connections between cause and effect, and will use available materials to solve problems, even unusual problems like parasite control. Migration routes and strategies vary tremendously across species, with some birds taking truly remarkable journeys. The bar-tailed godwit, a large shorebird, makes the longest non-stop flight of any bird. These incredible athletes fly from Alaska to New Zealand, covering over 7,000 miles without stopping to eat, drink, or rest. This journey takes approximately 8 days of continuous flight. To prepare for this marathon, godwits undergo dramatic physical changes. Before migration, they gorge themselves on food, doubling their body weight and storing massive amounts of fat. Their digestive organs actually shrink before the flight, reducing unnecessary weight and making more room for fat storage. Their flight muscles grow larger, and their heart enlarges to pump blood more efficiently. During the flight, godwits burn their fat reserves, and when necessary, even break down their own muscle tissue for energy. This physiological transformation and the ability to fly for over a week without stopping pushes the boundaries of what seems physically possible. Weather conditions present constant challenges for birds, and their adaptations to deal with storms and extreme conditions are impressive. Many seabirds can sense approaching storms through changes in barometric pressure, and they may fly hundreds of miles to avoid severe weather. However, sometimes storms move too quickly, and birds get caught in hurricanes or typhoons. Surprisingly, some birds have learned to take advantage of storms. Birds caught in the eye of a hurricane sometimes ride within the calm center of the storm, traveling with it for hundreds of miles before escaping when the storm makes landfall or weakens. After major storms, birdwatchers often find rare species blown far off course, sometimes thousands of miles from their normal range. These vagrants, as they're called, provide exciting observations for birders and important data for scientists tracking bird movements. The capacity of birds to remember locations and cache food demonstrates remarkable spatial memory. Clark's nutcrackers, members of the crow family living in western North American mountains, bury seeds in thousands of scattered locations each fall to sustain themselves through winter. A single nutcracker may hide more than 30,000 seeds in up to 5,000 different locations scattered across miles of mountainous terrain. Even more impressively, these birds can remember most of these cache sites and successfully recover their hidden food months later, even after the landscape is covered in snow. Research shows that the part of the nutcracker's brain responsible for spatial memory, the hippocampus, is proportionally larger than in related species that don't cache food. This suggests their brains have evolved specifically to handle the enormous memory load required for their survival strategy. Temperature regulation in birds involves more than just feathers. Birds are warm-blooded like mammals, maintaining constant body temperatures despite environmental conditions. However, birds have higher body temperatures than mammals, typically between 106 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. This high metabolic rate requires constant food intake, which is why birds spend so much of their day feeding. In cold weather, birds fluff their feathers to trap more air for insulation, making them look much larger and rounder. They also have a countercurrent heat exchange system in their legs, similar to penguins, which prevents heat loss through their unfeathered feet. In hot weather, birds face different challenges. Without sweat glands, they cool themselves primarily through panting and through a process called gular fluttering, where they rapidly vibrate their throat muscles to increase evaporative cooling. Some birds, like storks and vultures, will urinate on their own legs to cool down through evaporation. An unglamorous but effective solution. The diversity in bird eggs is another area of endless fascination. Bird eggs come in an extraordinary variety of sizes, shapes, colors, and patterns. The ostrich lays the largest eggs of any living bird, with eggs weighing about 3 pounds and being the equivalent of 2 dozen chicken eggs. However, relative to body size, the kiwi bird from New Zealand lays the largest egg. Female kiwi may weigh just 4 pounds, but her egg can weigh 1 pound, representing 25% of her body weight. That would be equivalent to a human woman giving birth to a 25 to 30 pound baby. The egg is so large that the female cannot eat for several days before laying, because there's simply no room in her body for both food and the massive egg. The evolutionary pressures that created such an extreme egg-to-body size ratio in kiwis remain a subject of scientific debate. The shape of bird eggs also varies significantly and serves different purposes. Most people picture eggs as oval, but some birds lay nearly spherical eggs, while others lay pointed, cone-shaped eggs. Murres, seabirds that nest on narrow cliff ledges, lay extremely pointed eggs. This shape causes the eggs to roll in a tight circle rather than straight off the ledge if bumped, preventing them from tumbling into the ocean below. Owls lay almost perfectly round eggs. The egg shape correlates with several factors, including the bird's flying ability, nest location, and typical clutch size. Birds that are strong flyers tend to lay more elongated or pointed eggs, while weaker flyers lay rounder eggs. This relationship exists because the shape of eggs affects how efficiently they can be packed in the body cavity, which impacts the bird's ability to fly while carrying developing eggs. The coloration of eggs serves multiple purposes, from camouflage to communication. Ground nesting birds typically lay eggs with camouflage patterns that blend into their surroundings, making them harder for predators to spot. Plovers and terns lay eggs speckled and colored to match sand, gravel, or pebbles. Birds that nest in dark cavities or enclosed nests often lay white eggs, since camouflage isn't necessary when eggs are hidden from view. Some scientists believe the blue-green colors seen in eggs of many species might have antimicrobial properties or help with thermoregulation. Interestingly, egg color can also provide information about the health of the female who laid them. Brighter, more intensely colored eggs often indicate a healthy, well-nourished female with access to good resources, and males may provide more parental care to nests with brightly colored eggs. The incubation period for bird eggs varies widely depending on species size and development strategy. Small songbirds typically incubate eggs for about 2 weeks, while large birds like albatrosses may incubate for over 2 months. The temperature of incubation matters tremendously. Eggs must be kept at precise temperatures, usually between 99 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, with only slight variations tolerated. Too cold and development slows or stops. Too hot and the embryo may die. Parent birds regularly turn their eggs, sometimes dozens of times per day, ensuring even heating and preventing the developing embryo from sticking to the inside of the shell. In some species, both parents share incubation duties equally, while in others, only one sex incubates. Temperature-sensitive periods during incubation can even affect the sex ratio of chicks in some species, though this mechanism is less common in birds than in reptiles. The complexity of bird societies rivals that of many mammals, with some species displaying surprisingly sophisticated social structures. Flamingos gather in enormous colonies that can number in the millions, creating some of the most spectacular wildlife gatherings on Earth. Within these massive groups, flamingos form long-term partnerships, not just for breeding, but also for cooperative feeding and mutual protection. Flamingos engage in synchronized group displays that involve hundreds or thousands of birds performing coordinated movements, including head flagging, wing salutes, and marching in formation. These displays serve multiple purposes. They synchronize breeding cycles across the colony so that most chicks hatch around the same time. They strengthen social bonds, and they may help individuals assess potential mates. The coordination required for thousands of birds to move in synchrony demonstrates impressive social communication and awareness. The ability of birds to recognize individual faces, both of other birds and humans, shows cognitive sophistication. Crows, as mentioned earlier, can remember human faces for years and even hold grudges against people who have threatened them. In experiments where researchers wore masks while capturing crows for banding, the crows learned to recognize those specific masks and would scold and mob anyone wearing them for years afterward. Even more remarkably, crows who were never caught themselves learned from other crows to fear the mask, spreading information about dangerous humans through their social network. This shows that crows have something resembling language, or at least can communicate specific, detailed information to each other. They don't just have a general alarm call for danger. They can apparently communicate information that essentially means this particular human is dangerous. Magnetic sense in birds allows them to perceive Earth's magnetic field, but recent research suggests this ability might be even more remarkable than previously thought. Scientists have discovered that birds may actually see magnetic fields as patterns of light or color overlaying their normal vision. The cryptochromes in their eyes create a chemical reaction when exposed to blue light and magnetic fields, potentially creating a visual map of magnetic field lines. This means that when a bird looks around, it it might see a shimmering pattern indicating which direction is north, almost like having a built-in augmented reality display. This quantum-level biological process, operating in bird eyes, connects some of the smallest scales of physics with one of the most impressive feats of animal navigation. The dancing displays of birds of paradise represent some of the most elaborate courtship rituals in the animal kingdom. These birds, found primarily in New Guinea, have evolved extraordinary plumage and behaviors to attract mates. Male birds of paradise prepare display courts on the forest floor, clearing away debris and creating perfect stages for their performances. Different species have different dances. Spread disease. Turkey vultures have an incredible sense of smell, unusual among birds, which allows them to locate dead animals hidden beneath forest canopies or buried in thick vegetation. Their stomachs contain extremely acidic digestive juices with a pH close to 0, strong enough to dissolve bones and kill dangerous pathogens like botulism and anthrax that would sicken or kill other animals. This makes vultures essential for preventing disease outbreaks. Their bald heads, which might seem unattractive, are actually an adaptation for hygiene. Featherless heads are easier to keep clean when you regularly stick your head inside carcasses. Vultures also urinate on their legs, and the uric acid in their waste helps kill bacteria they might pick up while feeding. The phenomenon of mobbing behavior shows that small birds aren't always helpless against predators. When birds spot a hawk, owl, or other predator, they often gather in groups and harass the predator, calling loudly and even diving at it. This behavior, called mobbing, serves several purposes. The calls alert other birds in the area to the predator's presence and location. The harassment may annoy the predator enough that it moves to a different area, and for predators that rely on surprise, being mobbed eliminates their advantage, since every potential prey animal in the area now knows exactly where they are. Different bird species often join together in mobbing, with chickadees, jays, and other songbirds cooperating to drive away threats. The birds take calculated risks during mobbing, staying just out of the predator's reach while still applying pressure. Young birds learn which animals are dangerous by observing mobbing behavior, so it also serves an educational function. The crop, a pouch-like expansion of the esophagus found in many birds, serves multiple fascinating functions. Pigeons and doves produce crop milk, a nutritious secretion rich in protein and fat that both parents feed to their young. This substance is produced by shedding cells from the lining of the crop and bears a superficial resemblance to mammalian milk, though it evolved completely independently. Flamingos also produce crop milk, which has an additional remarkable property. It's bright red due to pigments that will eventually color the chick's feathers. Parent flamingos literally drain color from themselves to feed their young, temporarily becoming paler while their chicks grow. Other birds use their crops as food storage, allowing them to quickly gather large amounts of food when it's available, and then retreat to safety to digest it. Chickens can store several hours worth of food in their crops, swallowing seeds and grain rapidly at a feeding site and processing it later. Sleep patterns in birds reveal another area where they differ dramatically from mammals. Many birds sleep with only half their brain at a time, a phenomenon called unihemispheric sleep. The awake half of the brain keeps one eye open and maintains enough awareness to watch for predators, while the other half rests. Ducks sleeping in a row demonstrate this beautifully. Ducks on the ends of the row, who are most vulnerable to predators, spend more time in unihemispheric sleep, keeping their outside eye open to watch for danger. Ducks in the middle of the row, protected by their companions, sleep more deeply with both eyes closed. Birds can also take incredibly short naps, sometimes sleeping for just a few seconds at a time. Frigate birds, which spend weeks at a time flying over the ocean, sleep while airborne, grabbing mere minutes of sleep per day in short bursts, making them one of the most sleep-deprived animals known. The speed records set by birds in different categories are absolutely astounding. While the peregrine falcon holds the absolute speed record in its hunting dive, several birds are incredibly fast in level flight. The white-throated needletail swift can fly at speeds up to 105 miles per hour in level flight, making it the fastest bird when not diving. The spine-tailed swift of Asia has been clocked at similar speeds. These speeds are necessary for birds that catch flying insects and must be fast enough to pursue and capture agile prey. Swifts spend almost their entire lives in the air, landing only to nest. They eat, drink, collect nest material, and even mate while flying. Some swifts may fly continuously for 10 months, covering hundreds of thousands of miles without landing once, essentially living their lives on the wing. The relationship between birds and their environments extends to important ecological roles in seed dispersal and plant pollination. Many plants depend entirely on birds to spread their seeds, and they've evolved fruits specifically to attract birds. Bird-dispersed fruits are often bright red or orange, colors that birds see well, but that don't attract mammals as effectively. The seeds pass through the bird's digestive system unharmed and are deposited far from the parent plant, often with a dose of fertilizer. Some plants can only germinate after their seeds have been through a bird's gut. The digestive process breaks down inhibitors in the seed coat or scarifies the seed, preparing it for germination. This mutualistic relationship has shaped the evolution of both plants and birds, with each influencing the other's characteristics over millions of years. Hummingbirds serve as crucial pollinators for many plants, especially in the Americas where they're found. These birds have co-evolved with certain flowers in an ecological partnership. Hummingbird-pollinated flowers tend to be red or orange, tubular in shape, unscented, and produce copious nectar. These characteristics match hummingbird preferences and abilities, while discouraging insect pollinators. The birds get food while the flowers get pollinated. Some tropical plants are pollinated exclusively by specific hummingbird species, and the disappearance of either the bird or the plant would likely doom the other. The long, thin beaks of hermit hummingbirds perfectly match the long, curved flowers they pollinate, showing how intimately these species have evolved together. Feather molting is essential for birds, but presents challenges. Flying feathers wear out from constant use and must be replaced regularly. Most birds molt gradually, replacing a few feathers at a time so they can still fly during the molt. However, waterfowl like ducks and geese molt all their flight feathers simultaneously, rendering them flightless for several weeks. During this vulnerable period, these birds seek safe habitats with plenty of food and cover. They also undergo this molt after breeding season when they don't need to travel. The timing of molts is carefully regulated by hormones and responds to day length and other environmental cues. Some birds have 2 complete molts per year, while others molt only once. A few species molt into completely different plumage for breeding season, becoming much more colorful to attract mates, then molting into camouflaged, non-breeding plumage. The evolution of flightlessness has occurred many times in bird lineage, particularly on islands where predators are absent. New Zealand, which had no land mammals until humans arrived, became home to many flightless birds, including the kiwi and the now extinct moa. Without predation pressure, the energy costs of maintaining flight capabilities outweighed the benefits, and birds evolved into flightless forms that could grow larger and invest energy in other traits. The moa, which went extinct after human arrival, included species that stood over 12 feet tall and weighed up to 500 pounds, making them the tallest birds ever known. These gentle giants browsed on vegetation and had no defenses against human hunters, leading to their relatively rapid extinction. The story of New Zealand's flightless birds shows both the power of evolution in shaping species to their environments and the tragic consequences when those environments suddenly change. The kakapo, another New Zealand flightless bird, is one of the rarest and most unusual parrots in the world. This nocturnal, flightless parrot is also the heaviest parrot species, with males weighing up to 9 pounds. Kakapo have a strong, pleasant odor described as musky or sweet, which helped predators find them after mammals were introduced to New Zealand. These birds have an unusual breeding system called lekking, where males gather at traditional display areas and compete for female attention through booming calls that can travel several miles. Males create bowl-shaped depressions in the ground that amplify their calls, essentially building natural speaker systems. Female kakapo may travel long distances to visit these leks and choose mates, with fewer than 200 individuals remaining. Intensive conservation efforts, including genetic management, predator control, and supplemental feeding, are working to save this extraordinary bird from extinction. The relationship between birds and humans has shaped both species throughout history, Chickens, domesticated from jungle fowl in Asia thousands of years ago, have become the most numerous bird on Earth, with over 20 billion individuals alive at any time. This makes chickens more numerous than all wild birds combined, showing the enormous impact of domestication. Chickens have been bred into hundreds of varieties for egg production, meat production, ornamental purposes, and even for sport. The red jungle fowl, the wild ancestor of domestic chickens, still lives in Southeast Asian forests, and it looks surprisingly similar to many domestic breeds, though it's much smaller and produces only a few eggs per year compared to the hundreds laid by modern laying hens. Pigeons have an equally long history with humans. These birds were domesticated over 5,000 years ago and have served humans as food, message carriers, religious symbols, and subjects of scientific study. Charles Darwin studied pigeon breeding extensively and used the enormous variety created by selective breeding as evidence for his theory of evolution. Homing pigeons, bred for their remarkable navigation abilities, were used to carry messages in wartime well into the 20th century. During World War I and II, thousands of pigeons saved lives by carrying crucial messages across enemy lines when other communication methods failed. One famous pigeon named Sher Ami delivered a message despite being shot, losing an eye and a leg, and helped save nearly 200 soldiers who were trapped behind enemy lines. The passenger pigeon story serves as a cautionary tale about how quickly abundant species can disappear. In the early 1800s, passenger pigeons were probably the most abundant bird in North America, with flocks numbering in the billions. Witnesses described flocks so large they darkened the sky for hours as they passed overhead. The sound of their wings was compared to thunder, and their roosting trees would break from the weight of countless birds. Yet by 1914, the species was extinct. Intensive hunting, habitat destruction, and disruption of their social breeding system combined to drive passenger pigeons from billions to zero in roughly a century. The last individual, a female named Martha, died in a Cincinnati zoo on September 1, 1914. This extinction of such an abundant species shocked conservationists and helped spark the modern conservation movement. Climate change poses increasingly serious threats to bird populations worldwide. Rising temperatures are shifting the ranges of many species, forcing birds to move to cooler areas, typically toward the poles or to higher elevations. Some species can adapt, but others find their habitats disappearing. Seabirds face particular challenges as warming ocean temperatures affect fish populations and change ocean currents. Puffins in the North Atlantic have experienced breeding failures in recent years because the fish they depend on have moved to cooler waters, leaving puffin colonies without adequate food for their chicks. Migratory birds face timing problems when spring arrives earlier than usual at their breeding grounds, causing them to miss the peak abundance of insects needed to feed their young. These phenological mismatches, as scientists call them, can reduce breeding success and threaten populations. Habitat loss remains the single greatest threat to bird diversity worldwide. Forests, grasslands, wetlands, and other habitats continue to disappear at alarming rates due to agriculture, urbanization, and other human activities. Tropical rainforests, which contain the highest diversity of bird species, are being cleared at rates that eliminate thousands of acres daily. Many bird species have very specific habitat requirements and cannot survive when their habitat is destroyed or fragmented. Forest interior species, for example, need large, continuous tracts of forest and cannot survive in small patches surrounded by development. The current extinction rate for birds is estimated to be 100 to 1,000 times higher than the natural background rate, meaning we're losing species far faster than new ones can evolve. Invasive species have devastated bird populations on islands around the world. Rats, cats, pigs, and other animals introduced by humans have caused the extinction of hundreds of island bird species that evolved without mammalian predators and lack defenses against them. The brown tree snake, accidentally introduced to Guam after World War II, has eliminated nearly all the island's native forest birds. This small island lost 10 of its 12 native bird species within decades of the snake's arrival. The remaining species survive only in small, snake-free areas. Similar stories have played out on islands worldwide, from Hawaii to New Zealand to the Caribbean. Island species often have small populations and limited ranges, making them especially vulnerable to new threats. The extinction of island birds represents an enormous loss of evolutionary diversity and unique adaptations found nowhere else on Earth. Conservation efforts have achieved remarkable successes for some species, showing that extinction isn't inevitable when people act decisively. The California condor, North America's largest bird with a wingspan of nearly 10 feet, declined to just 27 individuals by 1987. Every remaining wild condor was captured for a captive breeding program, a controversial decision that risked losing back to over 500 birds, with more than half living in the wild. This recovery required addressing threats, including lead poisoning from ammunition fragments in carcasses, power line collisions, and habitat loss. The Condor program demonstrates both the tremendous effort required to save critically endangered species and the possibility of success with dedicated conservation work. The importance of protected areas for bird conservation cannot be overstated. National parks, wildlife refuges, and other reserves provide crucial habitat for birds and other wildlife. Migratory birds especially depend on networks of protected sites along their migration routes. The loss of even one critical stopover site can jeopardize entire populations if birds cannot complete their migrations successfully. International cooperation is essential for migratory bird conservation, since these species cross national boundaries and depend on habitats in multiple countries. Treaties like the Migratory Bird Treaty Act in North America have provided legal protection for migratory species and have been crucial for conservation efforts. However, enforcement remains challenging, and many migratory species continue to decline despite legal protections. Window collisions kill hundreds of millions of birds annually in North America alone, making glass one of the most deadly human-made hazards for birds. Birds cannot perceive glass as a barrier and often strike windows at full speed while flying. The problem is especially severe with large glass buildings, particularly those surrounded by vegetation, or those with glass corners that create the illusion of flying through open space. Solutions exist, including treating glass with patterns that birds can see, turning off unnecessary lighting at night during migration seasons, and incorporating bird-friendly design into new construction. Some cities have adopted bird-friendly building guidelines, requiring new construction to include features that reduce bird collisions. These relatively simple measures can dramatically reduce mortality and have been shown to work when properly implemented. Cats, both feral and domestic pets allowed outdoors, kill billions of birds annually worldwide. This represents one of the largest human-caused sources of bird mortality. The problem is especially severe for ground-nesting birds and species that feed on or near the ground. Cat predation adds to other stressors birds face and can push struggling populations toward extinction. The solution requires keeping pet cats indoors, managing feral cat populations humanely, and educating the public about the impact of cats on wildlife. Indoor cats live longer, healthier lives, and don't contribute to bird mortality or other environmental problems. Some communities have implemented trap-neuter return programs for feral cats to stabilize populations humanely, though the effectiveness of these programs remains debated among conservationists and animal welfare advocates. Pesticides continue to threaten bird populations despite increased regulations since the DDT era. The pesticide DDT nearly drove bald eagles, peregrine falcons, and brown pelicans to extinction by causing eggshell thinning that prevented successful reproduction. The banning of DDT in North America in the 1970s allowed these species to recover dramatically, showing that removing environmental toxins can have rapid, positive effects. However, newer pesticides still pose serious threats. Neonicotinoid insecticides, widely used in agriculture, kill insects that birds depend on for food and can also poison birds directly. The massive decline in insect populations documented worldwide threatens insect-eating birds with starvation. A study found that North America has lost 3 billion birds, nearly 30% of the total, since 1970, with insect-eating species showing some of the steepest declines. The connection between bird populations and ecosystem health makes birds important indicators of environmental conditions. When bird populations decline, it often signals broader environmental problems that will eventually affect other species, including humans. The loss of vultures in India provides a stark example. 3 vulture species declined by over 99% in the 1990s due to poisoning from a veterinary drug used on cattle. The loss of these crucial scavengers led to massive increases in feral dog populations, feeding on carcasses the vultures would have consumed. This dog population explosion increased rabies transmission to humans and altered disease dynamics across the region. The economic costs of losing vultures, calculated in human diseases and sanitation problems, ran into the billions of dollars, far exceeding the cost of conservation efforts. Citizen science has become increasingly important for bird conservation and research. Programs like the Christmas bird count, which has run annually for over a century, eBird, and various breeding bird surveys collect data from thousands of volunteer observers. This vast network of citizen scientists provides information on bird populations, distributions, and trends that would be impossible for professional researchers to gather alone. The data helps scientists track responses to climate change, identify important habitats needing protection, and detect emerging problems in bird populations. Modern technology, including smartphone apps that make recording and sharing bird observations easy, has dramatically increased participation in citizen science and the amount of data available for conservation decisions. Bird feeding has become a major industry and popular hobby, with millions of people feeding birds at their homes. This practice can help birds survive harsh winters and provides people with close encounters with wildlife. However, feeders can also concentrate birds in ways that facilitate disease transmission and attract predators. Dirty feeders can spread salmonella and other diseases, making regular cleaning essential. Feeders placed too close to windows increase collision risk. Despite these concerns, research generally shows that responsible bird feeding provides benefits that outweigh the risks, especially in urban and suburban areas where natural food sources may be limited. Providing native plants that produce seeds and berries, in addition to or instead of feeders, offers birds food while also providing shelter and nesting sites. The economic value of birds extends far beyond ecotourism, though birdwatching does generate billions of dollars annually in economic activity. Birds provide ecosystem services worth trillions of dollars globally. Birds control insect pests, reducing crop damage and the need for pesticides. A single barn owl family can consume thousands of rodents in a year, providing free pest control for farmers. Birds pollinate crops and wild plants, maintaining ecosystems that humans depend on. Vultures provide sanitation services by disposing of dead animals. Seabirds transport nutrients from oceans to land through their guano, fertilizing coastal ecosystems and historically providing fertilizer for agriculture. These services, which birds provide for free, would be impossible or prohibitively expensive for humans to replace. The future of birds depends on choices humanity makes today. Climate change, habitat loss, pollution, and other threats continue to intensify. But solutions exist for all these problems. Protecting and restoring habitat, reducing pesticide use, keeping cats indoors, making buildings bird safe, and addressing climate change will all help birds survive and thrive. Supporting conservation organizations, participating in citizen science, making your yard bird-friendly, and advocating for policies that protect birds and their habitats are actions everyone can take. The resilience birds have shown, recovering from population crashes when threats are removed, demonstrates that conservation efforts can succeed. Birds have survived on Earth for over 150 million years, outlasting dinosaurs and adapting to countless environmental changes. They've colonized every continent, mastered the air, and developed the most sophisticated flying abilities of any animals. They've evolved intelligence rivaling primates, navigational abilities that shame our best technology, and beauty that inspires art and poetry. The songs of birds have welcomed every human done throughout our history. These remarkable creatures connect us to the natural world and remind us that we share this planet with other intelligent, feeling, amazing beings. Protecting birds means protecting the health and beauty of our world, ensuring that future generations can still wake to bird song and marvel at the sight of wings against the sky. The story of birds is far from over, and with effort and care, these incredible animals will continue their ancient legacy, filling our world with flight, song, and wonder for millions of years to come. The underwater prowess of certain bird species reveals abilities that seem to defy their aerial nature. Penguins, despite being birds, are more graceful underwater than on land or in air. Emperor penguins can dive to depths exceeding 1,800 feet and hold their breath for over 20 minutes. At these depths, the pressure is enormous, yet penguins have evolved remarkable adaptations to handle it. Their solid bones, unlike the hollow bones of flying birds, help them dive deeper by reducing buoyancy. Their bodies contain high levels of myoglobin, a protein that stores oxygen in muscles, allowing them to remain submerged for extended periods. During deep dives, penguins reduce their heart rate dramatically and shut down blood flow to non-essential organs, conserving oxygen for their brain and heart. When they surface, they can replenish their oxygen stores in just a few breaths, then immediately dive again. Cormorants and anhingas are diving birds with a unique problem related to their underwater hunting. Unlike ducks and other waterfowl that have highly waterproof feathers, these birds have partially wettable plumage that reduces buoyancy, making diving easier and more efficient. However, this adaptation means their feathers become waterlogged during diving sessions. After fishing, cormorants and anhingas must spend time perched with their wings spread wide, drying their feathers in the sun and wind. This distinctive pose has become iconic for these birds, and while they look like they're sunbathing, they're actually performing essential maintenance. The reduced waterproofing represents an evolutionary trade-off where the benefits of easier diving outweigh the inconvenience of needing to dry off afterward. The Atlantic puffin demonstrates another fascinating underwater adaptation. These charismatic seabirds with their colorful beaks use their wings to fly through water, essentially flying underwater while hunting for small fish. Puffins can dive to depths of 200 feet and can carry multiple fish back to their burrows for their chicks. The secret to carrying many fish at once lies in their specially adapted tongue and palate, which have backward-facing spines that hold fish in place against the roof of their mouth. This allows puffins to continue hunting while already holding fish, sometimes returning to their nests with a dozen or more small fish arranged neatly in their bills. The colorful bill plates that make puffins so recognizable are actually shed after breeding season, and puffins spend their winter at sea with much duller, smaller bills. Nocturnal migration is a strategy used by billions of birds, and this behavior has fascinated scientists for generations. Most small songbirds migrate at night, which seems counterintuitive since they feed during the day and rest at night during non-migration periods. Several advantages explain this strategy. Nighttime air is generally cooler and calmer, reducing the energy costs of flight and making migration less physically demanding. Flying at night allows birds to spend daylight hours feeding and building up energy reserves for the next night's flight. Night migration also provides protection from daytime predators like hawks. Additionally, navigating by stars provides reliable directional information. On clear nights during migration seasons, millions of birds pass overhead in darkness, completely unseen by people below. New radar and acoustic monitoring technologies have revealed the enormous scale of nocturnal migration and shown that some nights see hundreds of millions of birds aloft over North America alone. The phenomenon of bird eruptions brings normally rare species into areas where they're seldom seen, creating excitement among birdwatchers. Eruptions occur when birds that normally live far to the north move south in large numbers during certain years. Snowy owls, which breed in the Arctic tundra, periodically appear in southern Canada and the northern United States during winter. These eruptions happen when lemming populations, the owl's primary food source, crash in the Arctic. Faced with starvation, the owls fly south seeking food. Similarly, crossbills, finches with crossed bill tips specialized for extracting seeds from conifer cones, wander widely in search of cone crops. A bumper crop of spruce or pine cones in one region can attract thousands of crossbills, while poor cone production forces them to search elsewhere. These eruptions remind us that bird movements are dynamic responses to changing food availability and environmental conditions. Cooperative breeding systems exist in several bird families and demonstrate sophisticated social organization. In these systems, some birds delay their own breeding to help other birds, usually their parents, raise chicks. Florida scrub jays live in family groups where young from previous years help their parents raise new broods. These helpers assist with feeding chicks, defending territory, and watching for predators. Research shows that pairs with helpers successfully raise more chicks than pairs without help. Young birds benefit too by learning parenting skills, inheriting territory from their parents, and sometimes getting breeding opportunities when neighbors die. This delayed breeding makes sense in environments where suitable territories are scarce and hard to establish, making helping at home a better strategy than attempting to breed independently. The sociable weaver colonies mentioned earlier create structures that modify the local environment, essentially creating bird cities. The massive communal nests built by these African birds provide insulation that keeps chambers cooler during scorching days and warmer during cold nights. Temperature inside the nest chambers remains remarkably stable compared to outside conditions, sometimes differing by 30 degrees or more. This climate control is crucial for survival in harsh desert environments where temperature extremes would otherwise make nesting impossible. The architecture of these nests, with multiple layers and chambers, channels airflow to enhance cooling while providing insulation. The presence of these large nest structures also affects the broader ecosystem, providing nesting sites for other bird species and even small mammals, making sociable weavers ecosystem engineers that shape their environment through their building activities. Brood reduction is a harsh but effective survival strategy seen in some bird species. Eagles, owls, and some seabirds typically lay 2 eggs, but have sufficient resources to raise only 1 chick successfully. The eggs hatch asynchronously, meaning the first egg hatches several days before the second. This gives the older chick a significant size advantage. If food is abundant, both chicks may survive, but during food shortages, the older chick will outcompete, attack, and sometimes kill its younger sibling. While this seems cruel, it's actually an efficient strategy. The second egg serves as insurance if the first egg fails or the first chick dies. When conditions allow only 1 chick to survive, having 2 eggs ensures that at least 1 chick receives adequate nutrition rather than both starving. Parents typically don't intervene in sibling conflicts, allowing natural selection to determine which chick is stronger and more likely to survive. Anting behavior, mentioned previously, has even stranger variations. Some birds practice what scientists call fire anting, where they deliberately expose themselves to smoke and even flames. Birds have been observed perching over active or smoldering fires, spreading their wings and apparently directing smoke over their bodies. While this seems dangerous and counterintuitive, the behavior may serve similar purposes to anting with insects. Smoke contains compounds that could kill or repel parasites. Some scientists speculate that birds might also be inducing skin parasites to move, making them easier to catch and remove. The fact that birds would engage in seemingly risky behavior like fire anting suggests the benefits of parasite control are significant enough to warrant taking chances. This behavior also demonstrates that birds can recognize causation and will deliberately expose themselves to unpleasant experiences to achieve beneficial outcomes. The learning abilities of birds extend to cultural transmission of information across generations in ways that parallel human culture. Japanese tit birds have been studied extensively for their ability to learn and pass on novel behaviors. These small birds have been observed teaching their young how to open milk bottles to drink the cream, a skill that spread through bird populations in Japan in a pattern resembling cultural diffusion in human societies. In another example, blue tits in England learned to peck through aluminum foil caps on milk bottles, and this behavior spread rapidly through bird populations across the country. Different populations developed variations on the technique, essentially creating local traditions. These examples show that birds don't just rely on instinct, but can innovate, learn from others, and pass knowledge to future generations, creating bird cultures that evolve and change over time. Talking parrots have fascinated humans for centuries, but recent research reveals their abilities go far beyond simple mimicry. African gray parrots, like the famous Alex, could use words referentially, meaning they understood that words represented specific objects and concepts. Alex could identify over 50 objects, recognize 7 colors, understand concepts of bigger and smaller, same and different, and even seemed to grasp the concept of zero, something many animals cannot do. When shown a tray of objects, Alex could answer questions like, "How many green blocks?" requiring him to understand both the concept of counting and the need to filter by color. Even more remarkably, Alex sometimes combined words creatively to describe things he didn't have words for, calling an apple a bannery when he first saw one, apparently combining banana and cherry. This linguistic creativity suggests cognitive processes far more sophisticated than rote memorization. The relationship between ravens and wolves in the wild demonstrates interspecies cooperation and communication. Ravens often follow wolf packs, and both species benefit from this association. Ravens scout for carcasses and will call to ravens and wolves when they find dead animals too large for ravens to open themselves. Wolves, alerted by raven calls, come to feed on the carcass. Their powerful jaws open the carcass, allowing ravens to access meat they couldn't reach otherwise. Ravens have been observed playing with wolf cubs and engaging in behaviors that look remarkably like play. Some researchers suggest ravens may guide wolves to prey animals, though this remains controversial. What's clear is that these two intelligent species recognize and respond to each other's signals, cooperating in ways that benefit both. This cross-species communication and cooperation highlights the social intelligence ravens possess. Egg tooth evolution shows how birds have adapted to help chicks escape their shells. Chicks develop a small, sharp projection on the tip of their upper beak, called an egg tooth. As hatching time approaches, the chick uses this specialized tool to break through the shell membrane and then chip away at the shell itself in a process called pipping. This can take many hours or even days, depending on the species. The egg tooth isn't actually a tooth, but rather a hardened scale, and it falls off shortly after hatching, having served its single purpose. The hatching process requires remarkable strength and stamina from chicks that have never breathed air or used their muscles. The egg tooth is essential because birds, having no hands or limbs suitable for breaking shells, need this specialized hatching tool to enter the world. Nest sanitation behaviors help birds maintain clean, healthy nesting environments. Many birds remove fecal sacs, membrane-enclosed packages of chick feces, from nests immediately after chicks produce them. Parents carry these sacs away from the nest and drop them at a distance, preventing the buildup of waste that could attract predators or harbor parasites and disease. Some birds eat fecal sacs early in the nestling period when they're mostly undigested food, essentially recycling nutrients. As chicks grow older and digest food more completely, parents switch to removing and discarding the sacs. Other birds maintain nest cleanliness by building nests that allow waste to fall through. Cliff swallows build mud nests with openings that allow fecal material to drop out. These sanitation behaviors are crucial for successfully raising chicks in the confined space of a nest where accumulated waste could quickly create dangerous conditions. Dust bathing is a common behavior in many bird species and serves important functions. Birds settle into dusty or sandy areas, fluffing their feathers and using wing and foot movements to work dust particles into their plumage. This behavior might seem to make birds dirtier, but it actually helps maintain feather condition by absorbing excess oil and moisture. Dust particles may also help combat ectoparasites by physically abrading them or by absorbing protective oils on parasite bodies. After dust bathing, birds typically shake vigorously and preen thoroughly, removing the dust along with dirt and parasites. Birds that cannot access suitable dust bathing sites show increased feather wear and higher parasite loads, demonstrating that this behavior isn't just comfort-seeking, but rather essential maintenance. Domestic chickens deprived of dust bathing opportunities show signs of stress and frustration, indicating this behavior fulfills an important need. The ability of some birds to use tools places them among the most cognitively advanced animals. Beyond the well-documented tool use in crows and ravens, woodpecker finches from the Galapagos Islands use cactus spines or twigs as tools to extract insect larvae from holes in wood. The birds carefully select appropriate tools, sometimes modifying them to better suit their needs. Egyptian vultures use rocks to break open ostrich eggs, picking up stones in their beaks and throwing them at the tough eggs repeatedly until they crack. This requires understanding that the rock can be used as a tool, and that repeated impacts will eventually break the shell. Tool use requires cognitive abilities, including understanding object properties, planning future actions, and recognizing causal relationships between actions and outcomes. The independent evolution of tool use in multiple bird lineages suggests that avian intelligence has repeatedly reached thresholds where tool use becomes possible and advantageous. Avian sleep adaptations include some truly bizarre behaviors. Some swifts and albatrosses sleep while flying, a feat that seems impossible, but has been documented through brain monitoring studies. These birds engage in periods of unihemispheric sleep while airborne, allowing them to maintain flight while resting part of their brain. Great frigate birds, tracked with brain monitors during ocean crossings, averaged just 42 minutes of sleep per day while flying continuously for weeks. They grabbed sleep in short bursts of a few seconds to a few minutes, never sleeping deeply with both brain hemispheres simultaneously while airborne. Upon returning to land, these sleep-deprived birds would sleep extensively, catching up on missed rest. The ability to function on minimal sleep for extended periods is remarkable and shows how evolution has pushed the boundaries of physiology to enable birds' lifestyles. Collision avoidance in bird flocks represents a marvel of coordination and communication. Massive flocks of starlings, called murmurations, can include hundreds of thousands of birds flying in coordinated patterns that create mesmerizing aerial displays. These birds fly incredibly close together at high speeds, yet almost never collide. Research using high-speed cameras and computer modeling has revealed that each bird pays attention to its 7 nearest neighbors, matching their speed and direction with millisecond precision. Changes in direction ripple through the flock like waves, with birds responding to their neighbors' movements faster than human reaction times. This decentralized coordination, where no leader gives orders, but rather each individual follows simple rules about maintaining spacing and matching neighbors, creates the appearance of a single superorganism flowing through the air. These murmurations may serve to confuse predators and provide protection through numbers. The evolution of flightlessness on islands created some of the most unusual birds ever to exist, many now tragically extinct. The dodo, native to Mauritius, became the poster child for human-caused extinction after Dutch sailors arrived and hunted this large, flightless pigeon to extinction by the late 1600s. The dodo had no fear of humans, having evolved on an island with no large predators. Its flightlessness, large size, and ground nesting habits made it and its eggs easy prey for humans and introduced animals. Dozens of other island bird species met similar fates. New Zealand alone lost at least 51 bird species to extinction after human arrival, including all 11 species of moa. These extinctions represent not just loss of individual species, but loss of unique evolutionary experiments adaptations, and behaviors that developed over millions of years of isolation and will never be seen again. The magnetic particles found in bird beaks have been localized to specific cells in the skin of the upper beak. These magnetite-containing cells are connected to the nervous system and may provide birds with a sense of magnetic intensity, complementing the directional information they receive through the cryptochrome system in their eyes. This dual magnetic sense system gives birds a sophisticated ability to navigate using Earth's magnetic field. The particles respond to magnetic fields by moving slightly, and nerves connected to these cells detect this movement, providing the brain with information about magnetic field strength. Some researchers believe birds may even be able to detect magnetic anomalies in the landscape, essentially creating a mental map of magnetic landmarks they can recognize during migration. This would explain how birds can navigate with precision to specific locations rather than just maintaining a general direction. The future challenges facing birds will require innovative solutions and broad cooperation. Climate change is shifting the timing of seasons, causing mismatches between bird breeding schedules and food availability. Some birds are adapting by breeding earlier, but others cannot adjust quickly enough. Habitat connectivity is becoming crucial as species shift ranges in response to changing climates. Protected areas that once preserved critical habitats may no longer contain suitable conditions as temperatures rise, requiring new conservation approaches that allow for dynamic range shifts. Technology offers new tools for conservation, from satellite tracking that reveals migration routes and critical stopover sites to environmental DNA monitoring that detects rare species. Artificial intelligence analysis of sound recordings can monitor bird populations across vast areas, and citizen science platforms engage millions of people in conservation efforts. The wonder of birds lies not just in their spectacular diversity and abilities, but in how they enrich human existence. Bird songs provide the soundtrack to outdoor experiences and mark the changing seasons. The sight of birds in flight inspires feelings of freedom and possibility. Watching birds connects people to nature and creates opportunities for observation, learning, and contemplation. Birds appear throughout human culture in art, literature, music, and mythology, symbolizing everything from peace to wisdom to transcendence. They serve as ambassadors for conservation, with their beauty and charisma helping people care about protecting natural environments. In an increasingly urbanized world, birds remain one of the most accessible forms of wildlife, bringing nature into cities and suburbs, and reminding people that we share our world with remarkable fellow creatures whose survival depends on the choices we make today.